Welcome in episode number 83 of the St0ner Sports Radio podcast. Joining me once again is friend and co-host Zach Huffman. We're going to run through week 8 of your college football slate. We'll get you ready for everything you need to know as the NBA is underway. We'll give you our predictions of where we think teams are going to land, who is going to win your MVP award, and much more. So stay tuned for that. NFL 2-minute drill is back because Zach's going to tell me what he was impressed with and what he wasn't impressed with, or if it's a big deal or not a big deal on some of these games that we had over last week. And we'll hit the sports book where Zach's got good news coming through the pipeline and he's looking to capitalize on it. And I join him in a quest to get back on my feet as I put too much faith in teams that let me down over last Saturday and much more. Zach, how we doing on this Be Happy Friday?
You know, we're here. It's tough when my entire mood usually gets determined by how well the Sooners are doing, right? So I guess you can say I'm lacking protection. The O-line's terrible, so my life is terrible.
I can get that. I can see that.
Hey, but the Thunder look good.
Yeah. So I mean, pour all your heart into that. But I put all your heart into that, like we said, NBA season underway and in full effect as all teams in the league have at least gotten a game under their belt. This NBA season, we'll be giving you the latest on that, keeping you in the loop all the way through the NBA Finals like we always do. We're so good at it. We're the best. And you know what? If you're not listening, do yourself a favor. Go ahead and listen. I appreciate all the love on the shorts recently. We appreciate you not swiping away as often as you did. We know. We see you out here. But make sure you sub. Make sure you like. Leave a comment. Let us know we're idiots. We love those. Because boy, we had that Arizona fan that cooked us a couple months ago, being like, "Oh, which one of these Big 12 teams is going to be a problem?" Well, I guess all of them are going to be a problem because Arizona stinks, brother. Surprise, you're not very good. So I mean, hey, we enjoy the banter, we enjoy it. We'll definitely add you. We're going to print out that comment and frame it and add it to the wall of shame. But let's go ahead and just jump right into it, Zach. I mean, big week of college football, tons of highly anticipated matchups, especially that Georgia-Texas game. We'll get to that. Trust me. But let's start out with my favorite and one that you thought I should be worried about. We were doing this live last week as my Ducks went up 21-0 early against the Boilermakers, ended up winning this game 35-0. But again, 2 straight quarters for my Ducks where we only amass 7 points on the scoreboard. Is eventually this lack of having a frame where we score more than once gonna come back to bite us? I mean, how do you feel about looking at this offense from the outside in, opposed to me, who's obviously biased?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I might feel a little biased too, just because it's Dylan Gabriel, out there slinging it. I think Oregon's the number 1 team in the country. I think they look it on both sides of the ball. I think that offense is as good as you think it is.
Okay. I mean, I'll take it. I'm not upset with that analysis. I'll be happy with that. I just want.
He's slinging it. He's getting everything he wants. The offense is wide open. The defense is performing. I wouldn't say you have the best defense in the country. I wouldn't say you have the best offense in the country, but I would say that you have the best combination. Because that's a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense that I'm looking at.
Well, let's hope it stays that way. Plenty of stuff to go ahead, but I was impressed with squashing any hopes that the Boilermakers had at playing Spoilermaker last Friday. I think that was. I mean, they looked good losing. I mean, those uniforms for Purdue were legit, but the gameplay not. I just wonder what that kind of drop off from last week to this week, especially offensively, after they put in that freshman quarterback. He put up all those great numbers. I was like, all right, maybe we're gonna have a little bit of a shootout, early on, but it just never amassed to that. Only 4 passing attempts at halftime. I don't know why Purdue decided to change their whole game plan for this game, but it didn't work out for them, and Oregon ends up winning 35 to nothing. And like you said, cementing themselves as the top team right now in college football. Heading down the list, another undefeated team. This one, a Big 12 team, BYU, escaping Oklahoma State at home 38-35. I didn't think this game was going to be close at all. I really thought this was going to be just one of those nights where Oklahoma State looks terrible. But Garrett Rangel came in there, and they added a lot of read option, and BYU wasn't ready for that, considering they had probably prepped for Alan Bowman anyways, or somebody similar to Alan Bowman that wasn't going to be him. Not a lot of tape on Rangel. But he came in and added a spark to this offense, and that freed up Ollie Gordon, had a big 50-yard run to start his night, and didn't end up with much more than that, but that was a big chunk of his yardage on the ground. Had a lot of touchdowns, just not a lot of the long runs like that. And in the end, it was just BYU with 10 seconds to go. Bad tackling in the secondary from Oklahoma State, allowing a walk-in touchdown after an 8.5-minute drive orchestrated by Alan Bowman after Rangel, I believe, broke his collarbone up there in Provo, running the ball up the middle late in that second quarter. So Alan Bowman back at the helm for the Cowboys. What was your takeaway from Oklahoma State losing on the road, or BYU escaping, however you want to frame this?
I'm framing as BYU escaping because I think BYU's in full front position to take over this Big 12 right now. Darius Lassiter looked really good, obviously. Looking at the stats right now, 6 receptions, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. That is crazy average yards per catch. This guy is the real deal. But I have some questions about the Oklahoma State quarterback room situation, right? Because obviously, Rangel's hurt. My impression was that Bowman had stepped away from football. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I guess not stepping away. Obviously active on the roster and ready to play. I mean, maybe not active
there was
as
a depth chart that was put out that he was not on.
Yeah, and maybe it was just a misprint. Maybe it was deception. You know, like you said, they maybe they wanted to kind of weave a little bit of deception in there. But you know, again, through the pipeline, Zane Flores, foot surgery, not gonna play this season. They've got another freshman whose last name has more syllables than I have letters in my whole entire name combined. Who is supposedly supposed to be very good as well. I don't see him getting reps anytime soon. I just think it's time to ride Alan Bowman into the sunset, I guess, because I don't see, unless Rangel can come back, which I don't know what his status is. Like I said, it could have been a broken collarbone, definitely a shoulder injury. It looked like something in that region, and you look at the replay, he got thrown down pretty hard. I don't think it's something he's going to come back soon from. So I think Oklahoma State fans have to get back to sucking, because it's not going to. Rangel added that extra element of quarterback run pass option that Alan Bowman doesn't give you because he runs half a mile an hour.
But yeah, I don't know if Rangel would have made the season any better. I don't know, but I guess.
I mean, I think they win that game if he plays the whole game. I mean,
you think so?
I think so. I mean, they were outscored outscored in the second half when Alan Bowman played 24-14. So it wasn't like they got super cooked in the second half. They led by 7 at halftime. I mean, like I said, it looked like Oklahoma State was kind of offensively at least coming into its own, but that defense is bad. I mean, that defense is bad.
The defense is so bad that I don't know if they can make a difference.
Yeah, and again, injuries play into that. No Martin, no Daniels. It's not good for them defensively. I think they lean a lot on what they've got up there in that front seven, and when they're hurt, I think the backups are backups. And again, in this age of NIL, depth is a huge problem for every team, and you just gotta hope that some of these homegrown kids that you don't have to pay money to can actually show up and tackle.
Yeah, and that O-line is so atrocious that it's kind of making Ollie Gordon look, obsolete and tanking his draft stock.
Yeah, he might have to come back. You might have to come back for one more year to try to get where he wants to be, and that may be a good thing for Oklahoma State. So we'll see what happens with that. But those were the Friday night games that were going on when we were recording last time. Now on to Saturday. Miami gets the win over Louisville, 52-45. Miami just keeps kind of escaping these games, Zach. I mean, they're playing close games with teams that a lot of people would argue don't deserve to be, in these close games with Miami. Are they on the edge of, hey, fraud alert here?
I think every team, obviously has some close games. Georgia won a national championship the same year that they trailed Kent State at halftime. I mean, this is it happens. You have some bad games. It's probably one of them. I still think Miami is a top 5 team.
I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you look at the close games like Cal, NC State, Louisville. I mean, and not just close games in the first half. I mean, from start to finish though, like nip and tuck. Like, it wasn't like they were, you know, I don't know. And these teams were not known going into these games as being like offensively potent, and then they play Miami and they throw up 45 points. It's like, is this a? I mean, it's giving 2018 OU vibes.
Well, it's giving 2022 TCU vibes. Is what it's
Right,
giving. Like you're escaping some of these teams, but none of these teams are bad necessarily. But the same thing with 2022 TCU. Any given Saturday, they go in there and they beat Michigan. They're playing against Georgia for the national title. Obviously, they get their ass kicked, but like, having close games doesn't mean that you can't make it to that national title game. That just means that you are winning. They're just not winning by a lot, which usually doesn't bode well. But we've seen teams win championships like that. We've seen teams like TCU get to the national championship like that. And when you look at Miami, they just have so many weapons. I mean, Samuel Brown, 3 receptions, 125 yards, 1 touchdown on 3 receptions.
Big chunks. It's 40-yard chunks.
Those are 40-yard chunks. That's. I have to. I mean, I have to think that Cameron's still top 3, top.
No, yeah, no, I'm not debating any of that. I'm just saying they're probably on the verge of losing one of these games, which again doesn't negate them from the tournament or anything like that. I just think that they're dancing on the edge of we're not undefeated anymore. I mean, it's just they're playing with fire.
Who they have? They have Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Hughes.
I mean,
coming up.
None of those should be close.
Georgia Tech is probably the only game that is going to be a doozy.
Like, why do I feel like this weekend against Florida State's going to be the game they're like going to? I don't know why.
Florida State's terrible, man. They can't
Brock Glenn. But no, they should coast. They should go into the ACC title game undefeated for sure. I think this was kind of, like you said, their last, big hurdle. Like you said, Georgia Tech probably the last solid chance they have at losing. And we know how that game ended last year, so that's not, sure. I'm sure Mario Cristobal would like that to go a different direction this time around. But yeah, that was kind of the lowdown out there in Louisville. LSU blows out Arkansas 34-10. Anything you want to take away from this other than, I mean, Nussmeier still got outplayed by Taylor Green yardage wise and stuff, but scoreboard, and turnovers again, a big problem for Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas is just bad, and LSU seems to still be on that quest to be in the SEC title game.
Yeah, they look like they're well on their way to making an argument for that. Iowa State escapes UCF 38-35. I got to catch this game in almost its entirety, and UCF jumped on them pretty early. Got a pick six, and that, well, it wasn't a pick six. He dropped it at the 1 yard line, but they punched it in right after that. What was your kind of takeaway from this game up in Ames? Did it make you feel a little bit worse about Iowa State, or did it make you feel better about UCF?
I made bad about the Big 12. That's kind of my takeaway from it. If these teams, if you have obviously, Iowa State, probably the best team right now, then UCF, who is 1-3 in the Big 12, come up there and almost take them out. I don't feel good about UCF. I don't feel good about Iowa State. This is a fraudulent team. This isn't a top 10 team, and I think everyone knows it.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree there. I don't think
just because they're undefeated doesn't mean they're good.
No, exactly. I mean, I didn't know if you thought maybe them and Miami were on the same level, but I'm guessing not. I think if Miami were to play Iowa State, they'd cook them. So, I don't think that was That would be a valid argument. Clemson gets the win over Virginia 48-31. Anything to take away from this other than another 300-yard passing outing from Heisman hopeful Cade Klubnik? Is that the biggest takeaway there?
He should be in New York. He should be in New York. That's all there is. Like, yeah. I don't see any reason he shouldn't be top 3 favorite right now.
Yeah, I mean, stat wise, it's hard to argue with the numbers he's put up. So good for him, and Clemson continues to kind of launch their trajectory towards that collision with Miami. So I mean, I think we're kind of well on our way with that. Notre Dame went over Georgia Tech 31-13. Again, Georgia Tech without their quarterback, Mr. Kings, they went with Zach Pyron. And he put up better numbers than Riley Leonard, but it didn't matter because he threw a lot of turnovers, and a couple of those were pick sixes. And after that, it was just no shot at them climbing back into this game. Didn't score until the fourth quarter after scoring, I think, the initial touchdown of the game here. So, anything of note to take away from this other than Georgia Tech bad?
I don't know if Georgia Tech's bad. I think Georgia Tech's pretty good, actually. I think Notre Dame's a lot better than them. But I think Georgia Tech obviously is going to be in a position to play spoiler at the end of this ACC schedule. For a lot of these teams.
I hope you're right about that. I think that'd be fun to watch for sure.
It's like against Miami; those are going to be big time.
Oh yeah, no, those are going to be their Super Bowls for sure. Mississippi State continues to start to build some points per game average. Their young quarterback looking pretty good, just not good enough to beat Texas A&M. The Aggies beat them on the road 34-24. I mean, are we just gonna give it up to Jeff Lebby for continuing to put up more points than 10 after a couple straight weeks of this freshman quarterback? Is that kind of the takeaway here? Because we knew Texas A&M was the better team going in.
Well, yeah, I mean, the dude's working with glorified like D2 talent. Let's be honest. Like, this is an SEC talent. So yeah, I'd give it to him. He's building some momentum. I know that they're 1-6 or 0-4 in the SEC, but I think they beat OU right now.
Yeah, I think that offense is good enough, and the quarterback play looks good, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact the offensive line is decent. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great, but it ain't terrible. So I think if you can give a young quarterback some time, you can see how that reaps its benefits, put up some stats, but the turnovers, again, just kind of getting to the Bulldogs there, and they dropped that one at home. Still looking for that first SEC win this season. Big shocker, in my opinion, up in Bloomington, Indiana, just walloping the absolute living just shit out of Nebraska. I mean, 56-7. More pick sixes than you count. Dylan Raiola looked terrible. I think he needs to change his look because I think Patrick Mahomes might need to sue for defamation. I mean, just a bad performance by the Cornhuskers. I mean, is this just a fluke for Nebraska having a really bad week, or is this one of those things where this trajectory of this Nebraska team's going downhill? I'm very impressed with Indiana, but losing your starting quarterback does concern me going into this week.
I'm just so impressed by Indiana that I don't know how I feel about their quarterback situation going into next week, because I feel like their offense is still good enough to get open. Club just got into this team. They got Lee Corso coming down there to visit. This is we're seeing a generational run out of Indiana right now. The problem is, when are they going to play somebody for real? But I see them getting into this Big Ten championship, which is ironic considering all of the talent that's in this Big Ten.
I mean, yeah, I mean they could very well be on their way. I mean, their schedule the rest of the way not super hard. You have Washington this week, which again is pretty big game. Washington's no slouch. Yeah, Michigan State, which it should be a W. They're not very good. Michigan, which again should be a W, but that game might be close just because of, I think, just overall talent. I think Michigan can kind of hang with Indiana, but then you got Ohio State, which If both of those teams win until their meeting, that could probably be game of the week. Would not surprise me at all there. Then you finish with Purdue. So, I mean, I think they probably end with a couple losses, but like you said, I don't think that puts them out of the running for slipping into that Big Ten title game. I really don't.
Yeah, like this is a serious contender for the playoff at this point. And I forget their offensive coordinator's name, but I need OU to go get him right now.
That would be a huge get for them.
Which I guess we'll talk about the Littrell actually getting fired situation.
That's definitely. Rod Carey is the OC for Indiana Hoosiers. So that's got to be on the hot board. Gonna be on the hot board there for the Sooners. Going down the list here, Kansas State wallops West Virginia 45-18. I know you're happy about that outcome, as you picked them to cover or to just straight up win, and they got that done more than enough for you to get that pick correct. And West Virginia stinks. I don't know if there's much to say about that.
Yeah, that's why I picked it.
Yeah, it was a good pick. Good pick. Missouri, after trailing the whole entire game at home against Auburn, scores 15 straight points in the fourth quarter and ends up winning at home 21-17.
Yeah.
Missouri just I mean, is this just, I mean, what's going on with Missouri? They're 6-1, 2-1. The record would I mean, I was at the OU game, so I did not watch.
Oh, Brady Cook goes out. He gets hurt early. He goes to the hospital. He gets checked out. He comes back.
Oh, okay.
He comes back from the hospital, comes in the fourth quarter, and wins.
Yeah.
That's what happened. It was a beautiful situation, honestly. And I hate Missouri.
I like that. But that's great. I did not know that. That definitely adds some lore to that, because I was wondering what the heck was going on as I was seeing those scores roll across the board in Palace on the Prairie. SMU blows out Stanford 40-10. Nothing to say about that. Stanford stinks. Illinois 21-7 over Michigan. I mean, the Michigan season just cooked, right?
Yeah, their coach Sherman Ward got fired, right?
I would think that they gotta. I mean, I would think so. I don't know how you.
This is the national championship team last year. This isn't. I know that they lost some guys. They lost McCarthy. I understand, but holy shit, this is bad. And like, you can't go from a national champion to that. So he's got to get fired. The fan base is going to make them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how this ends any other way unless they really believe that, you know, it's just this national championship drop off, lose players type shit, and that he'll get his stuff back on track for next season. I just don't see that happening. I kind of agree with you. I think he's kind of on the way out, and I don't see, unless he wins out, I don't see any way he saves his job this season. So kudos to Illinois, 6-1 and 3-1, big game against Oregon this weekend. We'll see if they can give the Ducks any scary, October surprise stuff. So hopefully not, but we'll see what happens. And to round it out, we got Service Academies, baby. Army over East Carolina 45-28, Navy over Charlotte 51-17. I don't know about you, Zach, but I'm feeling like this Army-Navy game upcoming at Heisman Trophy Saturday, where they are the only thing on TV, this might be one of the highest viewed games of all time between these two teams if they continue to just keep racking up W's, because not only could it be for a chance to go to the tournament, could it be a chance for both of them to squeeze in there, depending on how the rest of this season shakes up because of how bad the Big 12 is. The SEC continues to look like it's going to cannibalize itself. The ACC looks like it might get maybe 2 teams in if it's lucky. I mean, does this open the door for more than one group of 5 team to sneak in there? I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be high seeds, but I'm saying could these, 10, 11, 12 seeds, could both of these teams land in there, or is there just no way both of these get in, and that's the game that's going to dictate which one does?
I think you're right. I think that's the game that's going to dictate which one does, and I don't even know if it does that. Um, I think even if both these teams go undefeated, I think a 12-1 Boise State gets in over both of them. I think there's a situation where if you put Boise State at that 12 spot, that you could make an argument for an undefeated Army or an undefeated Navy at the 11 spot, but I don't see them doing that and sacrificing one of the P4 conferences from having another bid. Because at the very worst of the situation, you have 4 teams in the SEC that could compete for a national championship, and we're obviously, I'm thinking right now, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and maybe not even Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and so I feel like they would rather have that 4th SEC team or that 3rd Big 10, 12,
Okay,
ACC.
well let's play that out. So you have 4 SEC teams that make it, right? You have 2 Big 10 teams, probably Ohio State and Oregon, right? Got 2 ACC teams, probably Clemson and Miami, right? There's 8 right there. I'm thinking, Big 12, maybe, but I'm thinking Big 12 champion at 9, right? But Boise State at 10, and then you give maybe Army and Navy the last 2 spots. If, like you said, if a team like an Indiana or a team, like you said, lower there you could even make a case for Ole Miss if they went out to, even if they're not in the SEC championship game, LSU. They could be, LSU could be that 5th team. I kind of tend to agree that, like you said, most likely the college football, playoff committee will put the teams in there that will amass the most viewership, and I don't think having both Army and Navy fit that qualification at all. I'll agree with that, but wouldn't it be fun? I think having Boise State and those 2 teams be the last 3 teams in, sure, it would piss off some of the fans that feel like, oh, my team has a better chance. But did you go undefeated? Like, I know that one of these teams would have a loss when it comes to Army and Navy, and that's where you kind of throw your Indianas or your LSUs or your Ole Misses up there to kind of jump them because the talent gap is so much better.
It's a talent gap. It's a strength of schedule gap. An 11-1 Navy is not the same as an 11-1 Indiana.
I'll give you that, but if Navy's only loss is against Army, that means that they beat Notre Dame this weekend, which would not be very shocking to me at all. Which would be a good win because that's the number 12 team in the country right now. So you win that game this weekend, I think you afford yourself losing to Army and possibly making an argument. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that win is going to be better than any win Army's got on their schedule. But if Army, like I said, wins the conference championship, I think you have a valid argument since they'd be undefeated to sneak in there. But they got to play Notre Dame as well. So I think it might come down to which one of these teams loses to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to, and then obviously the game where nobody else plays.
Yeah, if for some weird reason Army and Navy both beat Notre Dame, which wouldn't be crazy considering Northern Illinois did it earlier this year. It's not like lesser.
That's where that 11th spot gets taken by Navy or Army. Yeah, I think you're right.
Marcus Freeman gets canned, right? You have to let go Marcus Freeman.
I think if they both beat Notre Dame, then they can both get in.
I think that's the only scenario I see where you make,
especially if that Army Navy game is close.
Yeah, if it goes into,
it's like a 3-point game. If it's like a blowout, then that team that gets blown out's not coming.
If it goes overtime, multiple overtimes, I don't know how you don't make that argument either.
Yeah, I think you have to put them both in at that point. If you put one in, you have to put the other. And yeah, at that point, then yeah, I think you can probably kick out Indiana because I don't think Indiana has a win as good as Notre Dame.
No, especially if they don't get to play for the Big Ten championship game, I don't think they have an argument. But none of the rest of these games on either of these teams' schedules are scary. I'm just like, here's Army's right now. They got Air Force this week. Win. Air Force is terrible. North Texas, terrible. UTSA, not good. Those are the 3 teams that aren't named Notre Dame or Navy that are left on Army's schedule. Now Navy, on the other hand, they've got Rice this week, or they got Notre Dame this week that they need to win. Then they got Rice, USF, Tulane, which could be tough, East Carolina, and then Army. So really, the team that needs to be more worried is Navy, because Navy's got, in my opinion, a little bit stronger of a schedule to end out than Army does.
Well, I think that's their strength for an argument over Army when it comes down to the.
Yeah. Well, and that would allow you to lose to Army potentially and still be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think
so.
I mean we might be. I mean, now these things usually play themselves out, and normally we don't get what we want, but that would be interesting. I would definitely be there for that, because I think that both of those teams would give any top ranked team or whoever they're playing, which would be what the 6-11 and 7-12 game, right? That'd be the two they would probably fall into. Is that right? Does the first four get a bye? You got 4-8.
Text. That?
Oh, I was saying. Oh, I was saying.
God,
I was saying that. Would it be the 7-12 and 5, or 6-11, 7-12? Would that be the number matchup for both of these teams if they were? Because I know the first four get a bye. They have what, the 5? What would it be? It'd be 5-12 and the 6-11, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, but I'm saying like those teams, they could lose to Navy and Army, because what they bring to the table is just so unique. I mean, we've seen prime OU teams struggle with Army's offensive style when they didn't even have any players. And I think that now they've got some players that, fit into the system a little better. And obviously you see how it's working for both of these teams. The triple option is alive and well. The flex bone is alive and well. I mean, and teams have a big problem stopping it. And you see with the numbers that these quarterbacks are putting up on the ground and through the air, I don't think there's any debate about it.
Yeah, that's why the Panthers need to go and draft 2 running backs and start running the triple option.
I don't think that's a terrible idea.
But yes, it's beautiful football.
Yeah,
and it's something I want to see in the playoff. Now, can you imagine an Army Navy playoff game?
I mean, who hosts? You know what I'm saying? You have your matchup at a neutral site all the time. I mean, you'd have to flip a coin, right? Because you would have two teams with, in theory, possible identical records, and one of them's got a head-to-head win, but it's like you play that game at a neutral site, so like who really So do you? I mean, would it be at a neutral site again? No, someone's got to host their first round games, and it's not going to be either of them. So I think that the next round, like you said, goes to just neutral site. So I think that would be fine. But I know first round games are hosted by the higher seed.
Play it in Washington. Play it in the Commander Stadium.
Yeah, that'd be at DC. It'd be a good place to do it. But that wraps up.
The president will be there and all that shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that wraps up the college football recap here, and that kind of transitions us into kind of the biggest topic of this episode for the time being is our NBA predictions. Welcome to NBA time, baby. It's time to slam, time to jam. It's NBA time. So I'm gonna start out with most improved player of the year. Zach, you've got J-Dub here for this award, correct? As far as
obvious pick.
As far as West goes, right? You have options for both of these. You have West and East candidates, correct?
No, not for most improved.
Oh, because I see Cat over here for the East. Is this?
That is the All-Stars.
Oh, I didn't scroll all the way over. Okay. So I'll ignore that row. So you have J-Dub as most improved player. My most improved player is Brandon Miller.
Okay.
Go ahead and make your case for J-Dub.
So my case for Jalen is just that he obviously had a very, very, very good sophomore season, right? And I think he has the ability to be a 25 points per game scorer, and I think if he can get up to 23, 24, and shoot more efficiently, I think he has the obvious case. He came in second last season. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't still be in the running this season. The only reason that I think he might not win it, he might already be too good.
That's fair, and that's why I kind of chose Brandon Miller, was because last year didn't really have a breakout season. This preseason he looked really good. I think he's got a real chance to make that Charlotte Hornets team a lot better than it currently is, and he's kind of showing more of a uh, a main scoring threat, you know, option than he did last season. I think that's kind of the big thing for me, is just going to his jump in offensive statistics. If he can do that for a whole entire season, I don't see why it can't be him. Um, but that's kind of my own that's my only reason, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't hate it. That's honestly a really good pick. I actually thought about putting Brandon Miller down there as well, just because of how one, LaMelo Ball is going to be more healthy, which is going to help, and the whole team in general is healthier. And I thought that you saw obvious improvement throughout the year last year that I think you're going to continue to see, especially with an off season. And we saw them; they played really well against the Rockets. So I like it, especially with Trey Mann coming in there. Whew.
Yeah, no, he's Trey Mann has been a nice surprise for them. So that's most improved player of the year. That moves us to sixth man of the year. You've got Russell Westbrook coming off the bench for the Denver Nuggets. We saw him last night, and he looked, like you said, a possible sixth man of the year candidate. Definitely filled out every single statistic on that stat sheet. That's no surprise to anybody who's been following Russell Westbrook. But it's different than just one in every category. He had multiple assists, rebounds, whatever you wanted. He has a number there that's not zero. So I don't have a problem with that. My sixth man of the year, and I'm sure you're not shocked about this at all, is Alex Caruso. I think he's going to be continually coming off the bench. Now, if he decides to be a starter for an extended stretch, then obviously that pick is out. But I think he's going to continue to be an off the bench kind of guy, and we saw that last night. His defense is incredible. He's not an offensive threat per se. He's not someone, at least last night he wasn't, but defensively, tons of deflections, which he led the league last year in deflections. That looks like that's going to continue as far as being in those passing lanes and stuff like that. So I like the headband to be a good option for sixth man of the year, especially if this Thunder team is as good as we think they're going to be. Go ahead and talk a little bit about Russell Westbrook to me for your sixth man of the year.
So after watching the first game against, when Denver played OKC, I don't know if I believe in it as much, but I'm still going to stick with it. And I think that his defense has been so valuable over the last couple of seasons that I think he can win sixth man of the year off that. But not to mention the fact that if you need him to be the guy, I still think he can be the guy. I still think he can go out there and get you 25. It might be on 30% shooting, but he's going to get you that 25. I think his defense is good enough. He's obviously got to improve on the efficiency a little bit if he wants a chance at this. He, didn't shoot very well against OKC. So I think he just did that because it's OKC, honestly. And he is just doing us a favor sometimes. I think he's going to be really, really good on the defensive end that he should be considered. But now that we've seen a couple of games get played, I'm thinking I'm leaning a little bit more towards Alex Caruso. He actually didn't score any points, but he was still plus 19 when he was out there. And he was just, if you watched the game, you saw that he looked like a sixth man.
Instant impact. Instant impact.
Instant impact. So yeah, I would probably take Caruso if I was doing this again today.
Okay. I like your commitment though to your pick. I think that it's not bad, especially. Look, here's the other thing you can say is OKC's really good defensively. No one's going to look good against them, is the impression I've gotten after their first game. So I don't really hold that against Russell. Yeah.
Our perimeter defense is, I would argue that we have one of the best perimeter. We'll see as the season goes on. I think we're looking at the best perimeter defense you've ever seen in the history of the NBA. When you're looking at OKC. And why am I excited about that? Because what is Boston doing?
Yeah.
Shooting 51 threes.
Good luck.
No, I don't think they're going to be able to do that against OKC.
They should.
They're not my finals matchup, but we'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, so that wraps up sixth man of the year. Rookie of the year. You've got Alex Sarr being your rookie of the year. go ahead and kind of give me. I mean, is it really one of like the only options? Because I mean, it feels like again, this is a really weak rookie class.
Here's my thing. These guys suck. I don't really know anything about any of them. Like, Reed Shepard is pretty good. I didn't want to pick him.
Yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, like I feel like I don't know. Trae Young. He's not even on that team. Yeah, I see. Like, this is how much I don't know about them. He's on the Wizards.
Yeah, the Wiz, baby.
On the Wizards. I was thinking of Zachary Rich
Yeah.
whatever the fuck. And I don't feel strongly about this one. Like you said, I don't think this class is good.
It's not good. And that's why Reed Shepard is your rookie of the year, baby. We only need to shoot above 48% from three, baby. Come on. Get in rotation.
I see no reason he won't win it.
Yeah.
It's a Malcolm Brogdon type of rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean it's and we kind of this was one of the hardest, easiest awards to probably look at because there's so few options. It wasn't like, oh, this is really hard. I didn't think about this one. It's like any of these.
Bad.
Yeah,
like,
any of these could win it, and yeah,
good.
I mean, if you even win this award, if you're a rookie in this season, just throw it in the trash, dog. Like just don't even put it in the case. Put it up in the attic somewhere. You don't need to be proud of it. Don't be proud of it. That's all I can say. Don't be proud of it. You didn't have any competition. It wasn't like it's not good. So I think me and you're both kind of on the same page with we don't really care who it is, but you're probably right. It's probably Alex Sarr. I don't know how Reed Shepard's even doing because, again, this rookie class is just they're not guys that should be getting quality NBA minutes. They're just not that good.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't think I don't necessarily know if any of these besides Sarr are actually going to start.
Yeah, they seem. I mean, role guys. I mean, it seems like role guys.
Connect, low key.
Yeah, I should have thought about that one a little bit. Connect 4, baby. Connect 4, baby.
Yeah, I like Connect 4.
But yeah, that might be another one that you might just throw out there because he seems to be a little bit more of a complete role player for LA. Defensive player of the year, you've got Wemby finally dethroning Gobert. I think this is because you think he's just going to have better numbers than Gobert defensively this year.
I don't see any reason he won't average 4 blocks. And if you average 4 blocks, you're winning that award.
I'll give you that. I don't think you need to say anything more. I think that's, huh?
It might be Chet.
I mean, my defensive player of the year is Chet Holmgren. It was Chet Holmgren last year, and it's going to be Chet this year. And I think last night, I mean last
really good against Jokic, and I'm not talking just defensive player of the year good. I'm talking first, second team all NBA good.
No, he did. He looked really good last night. If he can continue to do that, I don't see why he won't move from that third team All NBA that you've got down here to possibly second team, if not first team. But I feel like that first team might be pushed a little bit. But I mean, I think he has a chance to jump at least to second team All NBA, first team All NBA defense for sure.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I definitely have. I mean, we'll talk. Do you want to just move on to the All NBA teams?
No, we're not gonna cover those.
Okay.
I thought that was
the major awards.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep going up that list. But that's what I've got Chet for my DPOY. Coach of the year, you've got Thibodeau. I like that pick. I like Tibbs. I like Tibbs. I mean, I kind of like Dagnall back to back. I'm not gonna lie. I think if I think if they take Missoula, didn't he win it 3 years ago or something like that? I feel like he's won it recently.
Joe Missoula hasn't won it.
Okay.
He's only been a head coach for a little bit. Another candidate that I'm kind of looking at, JJ Redick.
It's possible. The thing is, it's scary because that's possible.
The difference in that team coached by Darvin Ham and this team coached by JJ Redick is astounding.
It is. It's baffling.
This is finally Anthony Davis's team. I feel like.
I agree. If he can stay healthy, I think that's the big deal.
You know that.
Oh yeah.
One of the main things that he criticized the Lakers about was not getting Anthony Davis involved as involved as he should be.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's done a good job of like you said, getting him more involved. If he can stay healthy, that's going to be the big thing. If Anthony Davis can stay healthy like he did last season, which a lot of people forget, he played, I think, every game last season, right? Anthony Davis played 70 games last year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like I mean,
yeah.
and people
He had
forget
a
that.
healthy year, which that was the thing we were waiting on, right? That was
Yeah,
what we wanted to see was a healthy year.
and the thing
And that
was
one,
is,
and he just
yeah,
drops like 36.
yeah, yeah, and the thing is LA was so polarizing for other reasons that storyline just kind of went under the radar. Like we've been, oh, street clothes. Oh, Anthony Davis street clothes. I mean, it's like well, last year he wasn't no damn street clothes, and you still stunk. And it's like one of those things where like that was the problem that was the polarizing aspect was like even though these players are playing like they're not meshing well, it's not going well, whatever. Now JJ Redick comes in, and again, you get this feeling, like you said, that Anthony Davis is more involved. Anthony Davis is their main focus of how many touches can we get him? Can we get him? And that's how it should have been. And I don't think LeBron or anybody will say that wasn't the thought of. Yeah, I think that was they were on the same page with that. So I have a really good feeling.
16 points.
Yeah,
Like he wasn't trying to get his 20. I don't think LeBron's going to average 20, 25 again. I don't think he's going to average. I think we're looking like at a 20-point, 18-point LeBron right now, and I think that's exactly what they need from him.
Yeah, I mean, and because all the energy you're saving in the regular season, you can output that in the playoffs. And I think that's another thing that people forget is if he's not being asked to play big minutes because you're winning games without needing him to go off for 30 plus or 25 plus. I mean, that takes a lot of weight off his shoulders that if push comes to shove in the playoffs and someone needs to take over, he's got that energy reserved to where he can use that and look like vintage LeBron when he needs to, because we know that animal's still there. Surprisingly enough, the 40-year-old can still absolutely smoke anybody. I mean, I was like at that.
In a couple months.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're gonna be 40, and my man is looking like he's only 28. I mean,
he brought it down like.
That's what I'm saying. Like I see people at my work at the hospital that are way younger than him that can't do that. I mean, it's I mean, granted, it's an orthopedic. Like people break their shit, but I mean, but it's like I see the range of motion not there. I mean, like you bring it all the way back like that. Fuck me. Like I'm out for a week just on that attempt alone. But no,
mid-20s, I can't do that.
Yeah, why not him for most improved player of the year, even if he's not. No, I'm kidding. It's nuts. But no, I think JJ has a really good shot at winning this, and I think that might be one of the best picks. Even though neither of us chose him, I think I would not be surprised if that's the result at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking at JJ. I'm looking at Missoula. I'm looking at Tom Thibodeau, and obviously Martin.
I mean, is it just hard to win back-to-back Coach of the Years? I mean,
the thing is, they don't normally do back-to-back. I think Monty Williams won it back-to-back, but I don't think that normally happens. There's also a lot more turnover now. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing is the turnover, the impact that you make at your new team. I think that's a big thing. But yeah, that's Coach of the Year picks for us. You got Luka Doncic as your NBA scoring champion at the end of the year. I gotta say, I do have another angle other than Luka Doncic. But go ahead and tell me about Doncic. Why Doncic? Even though it's obvious, why Doncic? Go ahead and say Doncic.
Well, he won it last year. Obviously, I mean, the only reason he won is because Embiid didn't play the required amount of games. But dude, he's got to average like 35 this year. Like, it's just, I don't see why he wouldn't. He's already proven that he can average 33. I think he averaged 34 last season, or 33. It was one of those. I think it was 33 or 34. I mean, no one else is doing that besides Joel Embiid. I don't think Joel Embiid's going to play 65 games. He already said he's not playing back-to-backs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing about that. But here's a player that you did mention that I think is going to actually average more Doncic, because now Luka's got Clay. He doesn't need to put out 34 points a game. He still can, doesn't need to. He's got Clay out there. PJ Washington still looks good. That Dallas team overall looks really good. I don't know if he's going to need that output. You know who does need that output? Minnesota. Give me the Ant-Man for your NBA scoring champion. My man hoisted 22 threes last night. My man's looking to try to put up buku numbers. I mean, he has had... He's
the champion on his own team.
Yeah, he's got the green light from half court, and he did not pass the ball where they fuck. You know who I have had the last two times I've been betting? I've had Dante DiVincenzo over 2.5 threes. My man can't get the rock. They don't want to pass my man the rock. He looks lost out there. You know why? Because Ant-Man is taking over. And granted, hey, it's working out for Minnesota just fine. I mean, but it's just ridiculous what I saw last night from the Minnesota Timberwolves as far as how long in the shot clock the ball is still in the hands of Anthony Edwards. And if you're going to have him have the ball that long per possession, and he's going to be putting up 35 a night, no doubt.
I'm gonna have to push back pretty heavy on this one. I don't think Edwards getting this award, even coming close to this award. I'm seeing Anthony Edwards averaging maybe 26, 27. I'm not looking at even touching 30.
22 threes?
Randall had 33 last night. Like, Ant-Man wasn't even score on his own team. Randall's going to take a lot of those points away from Ant. Like you taught, the same thing you said about Klay Thompson coming over to Dallas. Come on, Klay Thompson's not going to score 22 probably ever again this season. Like, I think he just had that debut because I think Klay Thompson's built for those kind of moments. But
we'll see.
He's not gonna shoot that well the rest of it. You won like all the fucking battle to end the season last year. It's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen where he's gonna average these numbers the whole season. Luka's gonna have to step up like he always does in the regular season because Kyrie's kind of wishy-washy when you talk about availability in the regular season. It's not to mention he doesn't normally like play as hard as he does in the playoffs, which is fair. He's an NBA champion. He doesn't need to. I was thinking you were gonna say SGA, or I was thinking you might say Anthony Davis.
I mean, my other pick was Donovan Mitchell, because he's got to average 40 to make Cleveland competitive. But he's up there for me. The reason I didn't pick SGA or Anthony Edwards is because both of those teams have so many other options that can fill it up now. Especially SGA, like he had 28 last night, right? That was what he had last night. I mean, you didn't need him to have 30 because you had Wiggins going bananas. You had all your role players show up. Isaiah Joe showed up. Jang showed up. You had
close game. That's not the case.
Yeah, but which of these games is going to be close, Zach? I'm being real. Like, I mean, this defense is so good, Zach. How many games are going to be
50 ball?
What?
I'm saying that. I think he can get that. I think he's going to be second for scoring champion.
I mean, if
SGA doesn't average 32, 33.
I just don't think he's going to need to anymore. I think that's part of the reason you
brought to last year.
I beg to differ. I mean, here's the thing that still, because the offensive rebounding was the defensive rebounding was so bad last season. I think that's been the biggest improvement, especially when you get Hartenstein back, is your rebounding is going to be so much better. So you're not going well, you're going to have more possession, but you're going to be able to build your leads easier too, because they're not giving up second chance points. So in those runs that you see these teams go on in the playoffs last year, especially Dallas with Lively underneath, where he was just grabbing every rebound known to man, I think those days are over when you play OKC when Hartenstein comes back. And last night you saw it again. I saw a couple of bad attempts at 3 Thunder jerseys around 1 Nugget jersey. He's coming away with the offensive board. That type of shit does not happen if Hartenstein's on the floor. I'm just saying, like it's not going to happen.
Can we talk about how much Chet has improved on that side though?
Well, no, it's been good. That's not throwing bows. I mean, when you're boxing out somebody that literally weighs 100 pounds more than you and doing it effectively, that shows not only is my man putting in the LBs with the protein shakes and the one extra meal a day.
21.
I mean, he's young. That's what I'm saying. He's got time to jack himself up as far as building himself.
Just with aging, he will get bigger just with aging.
I mean, my example is Giannis. I mean, look how scrawny Giannis was when he got in the league, and now it's like, good God, his biceps are the size of my head. Like it's just, it's like, oh shit. I mean, that's what I hope these guys turn into. I just don't know if their genes are. I don't know if their genes can do that. I feel like these guys are just built to be looking like stick figures out here.
They don't need to be huge. They just need to be strong.
And
not strong. And I'm talking about Wendy. I'm talking about Brandon Miller. I'm talking about Chet. I'm talking all these young bigs. And like when you're talking about strong big, you're thinking about Anthony Davis. You're thinking about Joel Embiid. You're thinking about Nikola Jokic. These guys aren't gonna be that.
Julius Randle, even Paolo Banchero,
To be honest, big, right?
Adebayo.
Yeah, these big guys. Big guys. And this younger generation, they're either going to get big or they're going to have to get really strong and I don't know.
Yeah, no,
They
yeah.
can't say looking like KD.
Yeah, but bottom line being, I think that the stars and some of these teams that have been needing to score 30 plus probably won't need to as often, which might drive that average down. Which is why I give somebody like an Anthony Edwards or Donovan Mitchell a chance to surpass them statistically in averaging points per game. I just think their teams need their output to be higher than those other guys as far as necessity. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying that SGA doesn't want to do that. I'm just saying. And he obviously had the opportunity to. I mean, he hits 2 more shots, boom, you got it. I mean, there's opportunities
I don't
there.
think he wants to. Like you said, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think he wants to be the scoring champion. I don't think he's going for that. So
No. Yeah, I think that's the other thing.
I think Luka is. So
Yeah,
that's
I
one.
mean, I'll give you that.
Luka was in the
No.
game. Luka was in the game when they were up 18 points.
I saw that.
Against the 14-15 guy.
Yeah.
On the other team. Come on.
I
Take him out.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. I don't know if I just think that's such a it's hard to push back on that pick because of the reasons you listed. It's because he's staying in. He looks like
it's the chalk pick. It's the safe pick.
Yeah, he looks like he wants it though. He looks like he wants it. And I think that's a big part of it because I think a lot of the players could have it that don't necessarily need to have it, and I think that's a big part of that.
Yeah. Same reason I have this Nets pick coming up.
Yeah, you have him as your MVP pick for this year is Luka Doncic, for the same reasons you mentioned, right? That nothing to really rehash there.
Same exact reasons.
Yeah.
The same reason he's winning scoring champion is the same reason he's winning the MVP. It's because he wants to, and I think they're going to win games. So,
well, this is where you're going to be shocked because if we have a repeat of the health of last season, I see no reason why it shouldn't be Anthony Davis as your NBA MVP. Because of the extended touches and if he stays healthy, I think he's going to put up numbers that Embiid would put up if he were to play 65 games. If you hear me out on that, I think the potential is there.
I like the pick. I don't believe in the health.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and it's hard to. It's hard to. It's hard to.
If he stays healthy, I think he has to be top 5 MVP voting, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think the late. And listen, I think JJ Redick might change my mind. We'll see. Currently, I have the Lakers as the 11th spot at the end of the season. So I have them missing the playoffs. I don't think a team missing the playoffs gets their MVP.
You have San Antonio making the playoffs. That's crazy.
I do, and I honestly, after watching the first couple of games, I'd probably flip those two teams right now. But I need to see more. It's been one game. I need to see more.
I get it. I think it's a little soon to make those accusations, but
I'll do another one of these mid-season.
Yeah.
More of a pick.
Yeah, and it'll be more of a conversation, for sure. Now. We'll go to the NBA Finals matchup here. We're going straight to the finals, folks. We're going straight there. All gas, no brakes. Zach, you've got Oklahoma City going up against the New York Knicks. Big time city versus small town farm boy. It's a definite narrative that the NBA could go with. It's about, outside distractions of New York City opposed to Brahms out here being the biggest distraction you have. Who's really focusing on basketball? You see it on the floor every night. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder improving constantly while these other players in big cities have all these outside distractions that they care about way more. What are these players here going to go do? You going to go down to Texas and go to Sugars? I mean, they're night trips is really popping. I don't think so. I think these guys are young and they're focused on wanting to be successful, and I think this environment here in the middle of quote unquote nowhere gives them the opportunity like it does in places like Indiana or places like, I mean, you can't even put Minnesota out there because there's stuff to do up there. I mean, where else are there teams that are stationed where there's not much going on? There's not a lot of them, and I think that
Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, there's places, but I think that's a definite storyline they could run with. Go ahead and tell me how you came to this conclusion.
So, real quick, we're discussing just like the narrative, right? Yeah. I think that the home court advantage is obviously there for OKC because Oklahoma City fans are great, and I obviously we've been multiple times. We know one of the loudest stadiums can get in the Paycom Center. However, I do think that some of these Thunder players really enjoy the spotlight and get in New York, and we're talking about Chet, talking about J-Dub, I'm talking about SGA. I think all three of these guys will play well in front of those bright lights and that big city, especially in a place like New York, where a lot of the fans that are sitting there in the Garden don't really care about basketball, or two, are probably Thunder fans. Like, there's so many different people in New York. It's such a large population that when a team comes to the Garden, they have a lot of fans from the other team, just because there's so many people in New York. So that's why I think like a matchup with New York would be interesting, because I think that the home court advantage is very, very strong on Oklahoma City side, not in New York.
And doesn't the NHL playoffs kind of run in tandem with that? The NHL, isn't it kind of around the same time? And the New York Rangers are looking really good.
Exactly.
So I mean,
this is a situation where New York's not really prepared and won't have the advantage. Now, I don't know. I don't think that means as much as we think it means, but because I think fans think that we make more of an impact on the game than we do.
True.
But so I have OKC versus New York. My reason that it's not Boston is what everyone wants. I think everyone knows why I have OKC. I think it's them or Dallas. They both look really good. Probably the Western Conference matchup is OKC and Dallas, but the reason that I think OKC is the obvious pick is the offseason additions, the defensive additions that we have on the perimeter and inside, not to mention the rebound. And we fixed every issue we had without sacrificing anything. It's beautiful, beautiful front office work, getting Giddey out of there, getting Caruso out of it, just fixing the problem that Giddey was. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful basketball. So OKC, I think, is obviously the best team in the West. New York. I have New York finishing as the second seed coming out of the East. I have them finishing below Boston in terms of regular season standings, just because I think Boston's a better regular season team. They're more prone to being able to beat anyone that's in front of them. New York, I think, beats Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals because I think that they have a good enough defense now inside, coupled with shooting talent, that I think they can match what the Nuggets do. I think they can match the 5 out, especially with Cat down there. And not to mention the fact, you have OG Anunoby and Cat down there playing defense along with Josh Hart, Joe Bridges, Jalen Brunson. All of these guys are really good on defense, except for Jalen Brunson, who's not great, which is okay considering that he would be guarding someone like Derek White or Drew Holiday, someone that's not going to really go out there and give you 30. I think that they match up the best against the Celtics. And mostly I just didn't want to pick the Celtics. I think they're probably the pick. I mean, I think that after we watched them shoot 61 threes and make 48% of them, we were like, okay, yeah, this is over. The Celtics are probably the best team in the NBA. But I think New York can beat them, so I went ahead and picked them.
I mean, look, I think, like, for all the reasons that you mentioned and the ones I brought up, I think it's a very polarizing matchup. Now, my matchup is not going to be as fun for a lot of people, and I don't apologize. Now, last year I picked the Mavericks to win it all. Hey, we almost got it done, baby. But you know what? This year they're getting it done. I have the Dallas Mavericks as your NBA champions this season. And the thing is I think the matchup is going to be interesting. I have the Philadelphia 76ers coming out of the East.
Wow.
And now this is one of those picks where it's like, you look at me now and you go, that's not really great. But I think you add Paul George out there with Joel Embiid, if they're healthy, which, according to the kind of rest they're supposedly going to get throughout the season, they do stay healthy. I think that 3 has the potential to take down one of the big boys, and I wouldn't be surprised if New York and Boston met before the Eastern Conference Finals, considering how good of a season I expect Philly to have. It might be Philly as the 2 seed with Boston as the 1 seed instead of New York. I think that New York is going to be in the same position they were last year, playing Boston for a chance to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that's kind of where they meet instead of where you have it. And I think that a lot of people are counting out Philly because of the shortcomings of the past seasons and the playoff P thing, like, he's not in his prime anymore, like, he's on the downslope. Like, I get that, but I think that because of what he brings to the table and because of how dynamic Tyrese Maxey can be, and right now you're not seeing the full 76ers experience right now, so I don't think there's any real judgment on it right now. If it ends up looking as bad as people think it could be, which, again, you don't have them being terrible. You have them finishing third in the East. So we think that the potential for this team is there.
I don't hate this matchup at all. I love this matchup. I thought you would pick Boston.
And the thing is I'm kind of with you with the reason why I'm not picking Boston is because everybody's picking Boston, and the thing is here is yes, it might be the safe pick, but it's years like this that make me think something awful is going to happen. Like, there's going to be some injuries. There's going to be something that derails this Boston team because of the fact everybody's riding them. Now, that hasn't always been the case. You look at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, for instance, and stuff like that, where, it seems like, everybody's piggybacking on this team to be great, and they end up actually getting the job done. Now, that's not to say there's not bumps in the road that make people, kind of perk their ears up a little bit, like, oh, this could be it, as far as, the downturn. But I think that you have the same kind of situation going here in Boston, where people are like, they're so good. They're coming off of a championship last year. They only got better, and you see that evidence on the floor when, like you said, they shoot and make all those threes. If they can continue to do that every single night out, they're going to go undefeated throughout the NBA season. So we know that's not going to happen. I think that you have those averages play themselves out, and I think you have good nights and bad nights, and I think that still Boston ends up with the number 1 seed at the end of the year. I think it's going to be the playoffs that are going to dictate this. I think a Boston-Philly Eastern Conference Finals matchup would be fantastic. I think it would be just as polarizing as it would be if it was Boston-New York. I think even though you look at New York and you go, well, more bigger city than Philly and Boston combined. I get that. But as far as fan bases go, you won't find 2 more rabid fan bases than a Celtics fan and a 76ers fan. I mean, those people are crazy.
Yeah, fucking crazy.
Yeah, so I mean that would be fun, and I think it'll be Dallas and OKC in the Western Conference Finals. And I just think that if Clay can average 18 plus points a game, this is a Dallas team that not a lot of people are going to beat. If the Klay Thompson we get is within 5 points of where he finished last night on a game in, game out basis because of the spacing of the floor and what Dallas is asking him to do, which is not as much as Golden State was asking him to do last season, I think they got a good recipe to be one of the more, just even keel baseline consistent teams in the West, and I think that's a huge deal. We saw Minnesota be it for so long last season, and they just fell off in the playoffs. That second round, they just kind of disappeared. But I think now with Julius Randle down there, Minnesota's not out of it as far as being in that Western Conference Finals conversation. But there's Memphis again with John Morant coming back and Desmond Bane, the way he's been playing, that team is not a slouch team either. I think we're again going to have these 2 conferences duke it out as far as having these top 5 or 6 teams kind of rotate throughout the season of being, I think the 2 through 6 kind of ranking in both these, conferences is going to rotate quite a bit early on here this season. I think it'll stabilize. Probably 3/4 of the way through the season is usually where it kind of decides where people kind of start being cemented in some spots for the playoffs. But I mean, that's my matchup is Dallas and Philly. I think it's going to be fun, and I think Dallas gets it done.
Listen, I like the matchup. I think that would be fun to see. And I think you've been pretty good about predicting these things recently. So you had Denver a couple years ago. And Dallas winning this year, you were just a little bit off on that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Boston was going to be as good as they were last year, and surprise, they were very, very good. And but the thing was that series wasn't boring either. It wasn't just a 4-game sweep. So there was a little bit of animosity. Now you've got your Finals MVP being SGA because you have OKC winning it all. I think that's fantastic, and according to my predictions, I would probably have Luka as my Finals MVP with Dallas winning it. I think would be a pretty obvious direction to go there. I wouldn't surprise me if the Finals MVP went to somebody like Klay Thompson. If it were to come down to here's like an Andre Iguodala thing. Like no one thought Andre Iguodala was. I mean, what about the year that Kawhi Leonard won it with San Antonio when they had Tony and Tim and I mean, that could be possible. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Derek Lively being Finals MVP.
Listen, I hate to be that guy. I don't think that they need him to be a successful team and get to the finals. Klay Thompson's going to be like a 12 points per game guy. He's not going to give you 18. I'm sorry. He had a good debut.
We'll see. I think he fits.
We'll come back to this. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if the shooting ends up degrading like it did last season, I think you've got a good argument, and I think that would be their downfall of why they couldn't get it done. Yeah, I feel like that would be their downfall in the Western Conference Finals, and you would get your wish there. I think that's a very strong possibility. Yeah, I think that's kind of where we have the NBA shaking out right now. We'll keep you updated. There's plenty of stuff going around, but there you have it. There you have everything from your sixth man of the year to your Finals MVP laid out for you here, with only 2 to 3 games concluded in the NBA season for every team around the league.
I did mine at least before any of these games started.
Yeah, I did. I'm a cheater. But no, I think nothing really would have changed. I don't think anything. The thing is the Philly pick is a long shot. It's a long shot, but I like it. I mean, I like it. I like it. I don't know. It's something I didn't think I would say initially when I saw that that's where Paul George was going. But the more I think about it, and the more I see them play without them on the floor, I'm like, I don't know, man. That might be exactly what they need to get over that hump. To at least get to the finals that I feel like a lot of Philly fans felt like they should have had a chance to be in, especially the year Kawhi hit that shot when he was in Toronto. I think that was kind of one of their better chances of getting there, and that was just kind of amazing that they didn't get that done due to that. But that's where I stand there, and that puts us, folks, into the NFL music, baby. Get it pumping. Good old NFL Films music in the background here for this 2-minute drill. Zach's going to tell me big deal or not big deal with last week's NFL scores. Let's start with Thursday's game. We kind of rehashed it last week, but the Broncos get it done over the Saints 33-10. Bo Nix looked good. Spencer Rattler did not. Big deal, not big deal.
No big deal. Exactly what I thought would happen.
Yeah, no big deal there. Jaguars blow out the Patriots in London 32-16. Big deal, not big deal.
I'm going to say not a big deal, although I am continuously impressed by Drake May.
All right, yeah, I'll give you that. Seahawks get the win over the Falcons 34-14. Big deal, not big deal.
All the Seahawks contenders.
All right, I like that. Bills blow out the Titans 34-10. Big deal, not big deal.
Nope, routine.
Bengals beat the Browns 21-14. Big deal, not big deal. Jameis Winston finishing the game for the Browns as Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles.
Should have beat them by more.
All right. Packers escape the Texans at home 24-22. Big deal, not big deal. Yeah, they escape. I mean, it was 19-14 at halftime in favor of Houston, and Houston gets outscored 10-3 in the second half. Not a lot of offense here in this game to be. That was the most surprising part to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that both of these teams are actually really, really good. Not a big deal, honestly. This was kind of one where I was like, either team could win. I like that it was close. I think that it wasn't bad for either team. CJ Stroud kind of looked bad though.
Yeah, there you go. Colts, in the return of Mr. Richardson of Anthony, get the win over the hapless Dolphins 16-10. Big deal, not big deal.
Not really a big deal when you're looking at this Dolphins team and how depleted they are.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lions get the win over the Vikings, giving Minnesota their first loss of the year. Big deal, not big deal.
What a game. What a game. I don't think this is necessarily a big deal game. I think that it made some plays for later about who's going to be at the top of the NFC going forward, especially NFC North. So this is a big divisional kind of a game, but it's so early that I don't think it matters that much yet. I think the next matchup will.
Eagles get the win over the Giants 28-3, and Barkley goes bananas. Big deal, not big deal.
Yeah, whatever.
Not big deal. Didn't think so. Rams with the win over the Raiders 20-15. Big deal, not big deal.
Pretty good. Four turnovers. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, that was nice. Commanders continue their good winning ways over the Panthers, 40-7. I'm sure that's a no big deal because the Panthers stink.
I'd say no big deal, but I was impressed by Marcus Mariota's ability to come out there and do shit.
True. My boy out here still not robbing organizations and being solid. I like that.
Yeah, 18 completions, 5 incompletions. 205, 2 touchdowns. What more can you ask, really?
And another Heisman Trophy winner. So him and I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, that's all you need apparently if you're a Commander is a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and they've got 2 of them on that roster. So, hey, the quarterback room pretty solid there. Chiefs get the win over the 49ers. Zach, 28-18. Big deal, not big deal?
Do the 49ers suck?
It's a question.
That's kind of the only question coming from, right? Is this an injury question?
Probably. I would think. I think so. Steelers get the
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Steelers have their shot at the Russell Wilson experience, and it goes really well as they blow out the Jets 37-15. Big deal, not big deal?
No big deal. Jets faint.
Not good. Monday night, Ravens get the win over the Buccaneers 41-31. Big deal, not big deal?
I think the only thing that really comes from this is I think that I don't know if we can say Lamar Jackson's an MVP candidate when Derrick Henry's doing all this shit.
True, 15 carries, 169 yards for King Henry.
I can't say that Lamar's the MVP, but I think it might be Derrick Henry.
I mean, it's possible. The more you look at this.
Fuck Jerry Jones.
Yeah, yeah, that's rough.
Who wanted to come to Dallas?
Idiots. Don't save money by bringing in Zeke.
Fucking 40.
My biggest takeaway from this game was the Bucs should have been up 21-0 in this game, but 2 flags brought back 2 touchdowns early in that first quarter, and that really kind of derailed the Buccaneers for seemingly almost the rest of the game until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it's because obviously the media is against Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, there you go. That's why that's where I was headed. And then the Cardinals get the win over the Chargers. Zach, 17-15. Big deal, not big deal?
Not a big deal at all. Fuck these teams. I don't give a shit about either of them.
Yeah, I kind of with you on that.
These teams will be playing in.
not gonna happen. And last night, of course, you had the Rams giving the Vikings their second loss of the season, 30-20. Big deal, not big deal?
Big deal. That was a really good game. For the Rams, improving Tua.
Yeah, it shows you how much they missed him offensively. I was an idiot and thought he wasn't going to play, so I took the Cooper Kupp over receptions on that and got cooked. So, I wouldn't have taken it if I thought he was playing, but people were like, he's probably not going to play. Ends up playing over 50% of the snaps offensively and ends up having a great night. So good for him, but the star obviously is Justin Jefferson. 8 catches for 115. I really thought this really just came down to, like you said, the Rams' offense being a lot better than it's been the first few weeks. I think having Nacua on the field really opened some things up, and you had some guys that didn't usually score some touchdowns get some touchdown catches for the Rams last night, and I think that was a good look for them as far as Rams fans. I think you can't feel bad about that because, again, this Vikings team is good. I don't think they're a bad team, and I think it's a really good win for them, and I think that kind of makes, again, that NFC West a little bit more tight.
Yeah, exactly. No argument here.
All right, well, there goes your NFL 2-minute drill there as we conclude that. We're on to my favorite part and everybody else's favorite part. It's the sportsbook, baby. We're hitting it up. We're making it happen. And boy, do we have a slate for you folks. It's coming in hotcakes. And I love this week's slate of games. So I'll get us started here. Look, I've only got 25 cents. Let's go recap last week. Zach, you took Kansas State money line over West Virginia. All your 25 eggs were in that basket, and you doubled it almost. You have 40 eggs in your basket now. So you did good. You get the W. I had the Georgia money line over Texas. That one hits. I had Oregon State plus 6.5. That was a loss. They lost by 8 to UNLV, so I got kind of bad beat there. I took the over between Ball State and Vanderbilt. I didn't realize that Ball State was going to give Vandy a game, and there was only 36 points scored total in this. I was really shocked at the lack of offense, even though Vanderbilt's quarterback sensation Diego Pavia went buku bananas stat-wise. That game, the over of 56.5, not even close. I decided to ride the Lincoln Riley bandwagon and chose USC minus 7.5. Guess what? Got cooked by the Terrapins on the road, baby. 29-28. You love to see it. You hate to see it. Both my locks go down the toilet. But you know what? I'm not upset because I get to see Lincoln Riley sit at a press conference and go, I don't know. The questions for so close. I watched about 4 videos of USC fans saying that they're selling their tickets and saying it's over, and why did you promise this guy $88 million guaranteed? I mean, we tried to tell you.
We told you.
We don't get. I mean, I remember posting that video about we don't get got over here at USC. We don't get got. You got. You got. We told you not to take him. You did. I had Alabama -3 over Tennessee. That one ended up being a big fat loser as Josh Heupel beats the Crimson Tide once again. But I finished strong with. I finished strong though with Colorado +2.5 over Arizona. They won by over 27 points, so I think that covered that one. So I go 2-4 over the weekend, and I am left with 25 St0ners. So I'm in the same bucket that Zach was in last week, where I've only got to pick 2 games if I want to, 1 game if I really want to go all in here, and we're leaning towards the 1 game because it worked out well for Zach. I mean, and if he's got the balls to put his nuts on the table, I'm gonna have to put my nuts on the table. But Zach's got 4 games he could choose. So Zach, let's go with you first. Where are you going first here in this beautiful slate of games for tomorrow?
All right, I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna keep it safe. I'm only picking 2.
Oh, I like it. So 20 cents between 2 games. All right, go for it, brother. I'm down.
Yeah. My first game, I'm taking Boise State.
Oh, he's taking a live Boise State. Do you want to pick Saturday games so people can tail, or you going with a Friday night light special here?
I'm going with it because I
okay. I like it. I like it. Hey, good luck, folks. I guarantee you, by the time this video gets posted, you ain't gonna be able to tail that pick. Hey,
I need to get my thumbs up.
You might be able, if you have DraftKings, to get a little fourth quarter money line action on this one by the time I get this thing out. But I like it. 20 cents on Boise State to cover the 4 against UNLV. Where are you going second with your second big game of the week?
This one's tough. I'm just gonna. All right. I'm gonna do something I shouldn't do.
Oh, okay, go for it.
I really shouldn't do this. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. I'll do something less risky.
Okay.
Give me Vanderbilt to cover.
Okay, Vanderbilt plus the 17.5 at home against the Texas.
I'm gonna go money line.
You go money line? Okay.
Only 2.
Dandy money line. Oh, baby. All right, hey. I mean, you hit that. Hit that. I mean, that's $500 if. Oh no, that's $50. Sorry, $50 if you get that. Oh no, sorry. It's even worse. It's $5. $5 back. So for 40 cents into $5 if the parlay hits. Which one is your lock? The Boise State's the lock, right? That's Boise State's your lock. Boise State -4 is the lock for Zach. All right. Nuts on the table time, folks. 25 cents. I got a quarter in my pocket. Who is going to get this quarter and cherish it with the rest of their life for all of eternity? Look, Zach wanted to play it safe last week, and he did a good job of that. And you know me, I like to risk it for the biscuit, baby. And we're going to go a little bit different here to a direction that might scare Zach a little bit, but it doesn't scare me. Give me Ole Miss to cover. Right now, the line is 18.5. Ole Miss -18.5. is the guess here. Look, man. I mean, it's
That's so risky.
I'm trying to get my 40 cents.
That's
So
risky. That's risky with Jackson Arnold coming back and like being the star, a little bit consistency with throwing the ball. Receivers are starting to find their way.
yep, I've got Ole Miss
I wouldn't get
covering. I like Ole Miss
Ole Miss
cover.
by 3 tutties.
I have Ole Miss covering by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, you're probably right.
No.
You're probably gonna throw 2 picks.
Yeah,
Macaron can finish the game.
yeah. Like no. I think they get it done. I think 18.5 is pretty good. I almost took the over 49 because I thought maybe you'd be right about that, about maybe some offensive settling. But having Joe John call his first game against the offensive savant brain that is Lane Kiffin, and I think the confidence that Ole Miss has coming into this game, they ain't scared worth a shit. And I don't blame them; they shouldn't be. But I just didn't feel like there was any other game on here that really I felt confident about. I mean, the Vandy game, like you said, a little bit of a risk. I don't really like my Ducks to cover the 21.5 against Illinois. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they probably win that game by 14 or 17. I didn't like Alabama minus 16 against Missouri was tasty. That was a thought I had because I don't think Missouri's very good, but I don't think Alabama's very good. But they are the home team, so you got to kind of give them a little bit of a lean there. I didn't like Baylor minus 7 against Oklahoma State because I don't know what's going to happen with that game. I mean, Baylor seems to be the good choice there, but is Oklahoma State due for a good show out offensively against a bad Baylor team? I almost went back to my Beavers and thought maybe they'd cover the 10.5 against Cal, but I don't know what to expect from that game. Does Miami cover the 21 over Florida State? I wasn't thinking that might be a little bit steep.
They're not good for a single pick here this week. They're not.
Yeah, I mean I didn't want to go with LSU Texas A&M. That's a 1-point pick 'em. I didn't want to try to.
You know what? I'm on Mississippi State to cover the 7 against Arkansas.
Right. I mean that looks tasty with the way Jeff Lebby's offense has been rolling. They might be able to actually straight up just money line win that game. I would not be surprised if Mississippi State gets their first SEC win this weekend. But I'm going to stick with Ole Miss. I think this OU defense may be really good, but I think if you give what I think is going to be double the amount of possessions to Ole Miss, and you have that defense out there for 75 snaps or something crazy, they get winded. Trey Harris is a beast.
I mean, thing is the offense of OU is not very good at playing defense. I've figured it out. The offense is not who should be playing defense, and it turns out that when we were on offense, we allowed like 3 touchdowns last week. So our offense has to play better defense.
It's true. It's true, and it happened quick.
Maybe that would help.
I mean, I'm glad I didn't spend all that money on them tickets because, I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, it was me and Greg were looking at each other like, I mean, he couldn't. I mean, this man that was sitting next to me, lifelong OU fan, over 50 years of age. And like even after halftime was like, I still can't believe what happened in that first quarter. He goes, I've never seen anything like it. He goes, I lived through the John Blake eras and never saw anything like that, like live in person. Just bad.
Like my grandma, who's been a fan for 6 decades plus, texted me and was like, I've never seen it this bad.
Yeah, and that's wild because
we're talking about half a century.
Yeah, and that includes years where OU went 3-9 with John Blake. I mean, we're talking about years where the record was awful.
And listen, I guess we can. I'll talk about it just for a short second. We'll get out of here. But that was the worst OU game I've ever seen in my life. That includes the 49-0 against Texas in 2002. And I'll tell you why. It's because in 2022, at least we were hurt to a point that we couldn't put up points. We were playing our tight end at quarterback like this. That was a game that was an anomaly. That was just, we shouldn't even think about that game as a real test of competition there, right? Like we're talking about this year, we're playing against South Carolina, an unranked team, completely unranked, same as us, unranked versus unranked, and we lose 35-9, and we only get we're talking about giving up 21 points within the first 3 minutes of gameplay off turnovers. Not even like for our defense giving it up, off turnovers, straight turnovers. We gave up 20. It was 21-0 with 9 minutes and 33 seconds left in the first quarter. Never have seen anything like that. It was the worst thing I've ever seen, and I think the only logical solution happened which was to fire Seth Littrell. And listen, I know you have your qualms about it, but you can't keep him after that. And I don't even think that's a football decision. I think that's a fan base decision. Make sure they keep coming to games. Like, don't fire him, you're losing the fan base. And I think he realized that if he didn't fire him right then, he was going to get fired at the end of the season.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think anybody. Even if he didn't, I don't think they were going to fire Brent Venables. I think he's got one more year. If it's this bad next year, I don't see how he survives. But I don't see how it could be any worse. I mean, the problem I have with it is like you said. I just it's year one of him being here. He's from the Mike Leach tree, which to me is very appealing. I think he is a solid OC. I just think that, like Joel Klatt said on his podcast, the schemes were bad. The blocking schemes are trash. Like who's involved with who's doing the blocking schemes? And that's usually the OC. I mean, that's stuff that falls into his lap. But what I'm hearing is, and I don't know anything, but what I'm hearing through insider information is Jeff Lebby is so good of an offensive coordinator that he took care of the blocking assignments for the tight ends and the line. He took care of all the other position groups and had them on the same page doing what they were supposed to do. So the position coaches really didn't have much say in like scheme-wise or whatever. They were more there for technique and stuff like that. And now that he's gone, these coaches have to be more involved and have to have more of a say. And Seth Littrell didn't run his offense the way Jeff Lebby did because, like I said, Jeff Lebby is known to be someone who is in the upper echelon of offensive coordinating, just with the way his brain works. And if you have someone carrying the load like that, as far as making sure everybody's on the same page, and they said literally you could put Jeff Lebby in any position in his offense, no matter what the play was, he would know what that person's assignment was supposed to be and what their job was. And that's not normal, apparently, which I didn't know it wasn't normal. I thought that was just part of the fucking job. But according to many people that have coached, including Cale Gundy, who was an offensive coordinator, he goes, that wasn't my job. I wasn't the one I told them what I would like, but they were the ones that made sure that the offensive line coach was the one that made sure they knew their blocking schemes. The tight end coach was the one that, knew the offenses. It was more of a situation where the position coaches were almost more close to the Venn diagram was more OC and position coach than just position coach. And with Jeff Lebby, it seemed like it was completely two different things, where the OCs got everything and the position coaches are just doing technique and position drills at practice, and that was like their job. And now that Seth Littrell comes in, he goes back to the old way and realizes that these position coaches may not be suited to do any offensive coordinating type things, which, again, according to Cale Gundy, is totally normal. So I think that maybe that was a big problem, but I don't know if you really lay that all in the feet of Seth Littrell for not being Jeff Lebby. You know what I'm saying?
He was never qualified to be the OC to begin with.
Yeah.
He never should have been hired to begin with. He won't come from UNT.
I mean, he's been a head coach and an OC. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's the resume looked okay. And the coaching tree looked good. I never hated the hire. I never hated it
to begin with, but I didn't really know much about him to begin with. And now that I'm like really learning that he's just not the guy. It's fine. He's gone now. So
yeah, but again, I mean, I don't know how much blame you lay on the feet of Seth Littrell for his own firing. But and the thing is to hear Brent last week before the South Carolina game go, I've never been a part of a coaching staff that's had to fire anybody midseason, and I don't look to be doing that. And then to go ahead and do it, that's a big move. That's a big move by, and like you said, it's a big move by Brent. And I think, like you said, that's a fan base decision. That's one of those things where the fire got too hot. He said, "Look, I mean, we didn't even put up more than one touchdown against a team that."
He didn't want to fire him.
No,
he didn't.
No,
fire him. He would have if he could have.
And I think that's what gives me promise that BV is going to be your head coach for a while, because he did something that Lincoln Riley never did. Fire his friend. He fired his friend. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
he does give me a little bit of promise now that you put it that way. He fired his friend, and and Lincoln Riley couldn't do that.
Yeah, him and
finally did USC, and it hasn't gotten him anywhere. What
yeah,
I'm scared of is Venables having that same situation where he can't hire an OC. And here's my thing, and I want this to happen now, honestly. I don't even want BV to have a say because he's a defensive coach, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let Bob pick the OC. Bob Stoops needs to pick the OC. I'm not saying if he wants to be the OC, I'm all
at least give him a list.
But I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can make Bob Stoops the OC.
No.
Problems.
But Bob wasn't an offensive guy either, though, and that's what made him so good at picking OCs. That's what I'm saying. But that's what made him so good was because he didn't have to worry about it. He was like, I can focus on defense and just get a guy that's a stud.
He hired Lincoln Riley, and that was the best. And Lincoln Riley still is the best offensive coordinator in the country.
Yeah, and Kevin Wilson wasn't bad, and Josh Heupel wasn't bad. I mean, they definitely had their years where it was like, wow, this is getting the teams are catching on, and this is not working anymore. And I think that's definitely a thing you see with offensive coordinators. They get into a rhythm and get into a flow. They don't like to deviate or be inventive after something works for a long time. You put them in a new environment like Josh Heupel in Tennessee, and you see how that's evolved. And you look at Kevin Wilson, what he's done and how he's evolved as a coach, and you look at how that's all panned out. I think that it's one of the hardest things to do is to be a play caller at the collegiate level, especially when you're dealing with adolescent minds in the grand scheme of things and getting people in positions, and the complexity of offenses differs from program to program. And I'm a guy who, if I was an OC, I would probably have the most simple run offense in the face of the earth, because I would realize that if you're overloading these kids with what they've got to do, they don't perform the way they need. They don't feel it's free. If you got to think about,
they shouldn't have to memorize a playbook with 300 plays.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that. And I think that a lot of coaches get lost in that sauce. And I think that there's a time and a place for that, and it's at the next level. I think you have to.
I agree.
I think you have to treat it more as a simplistic concept, because you look at some of the defenses that these teams are running, and they're not super complicated defenses either, because defense is even easier to coach, because you want to talk about meatheads. Defense is like 90% people that just want to hurt people. I mean, it's just see ball, attack ball. Yeah, see ball, attack ball. Like that. That's it. Put me in a spot and let me stand there, and if it gets to my area, then I move. I mean, it's more simplistic overall, and you have these complicated offenses where it's like, I think that if you would just let these players have limited route trees and not have these option routes and stuff like that. I'm not saying never, I'm just saying as prevalent as it is. I think window dressing is more important than route trees and blocking schemes. I think being able to identify blitzers and whether it's man or zone is more of an advantage to you these days than having overcomplicated routes and blocking schemes to try to fit every single defensive front that you see. I think that that coaches are kind of getting lost in that, and I think they try to make themselves seem a lot smarter and more sophisticated than they actually are, and I think it ends up kind of biting them in the tail. And I think that when you talk about Seth Littrell, that was the number one issue with him, was there was no window dressing. You didn't have a lot of motion, and I think that was kind of what made it harder for players like Michael Hawkins and Jackson Arnold to run RPOs, because if you're not having a lot of pre-snap motion, you're not identifying the defense in a way that's going to benefit you. If you're only looking at the safeties and being like, oh, there's too high safety, it's got to be this, and you're just not even putting a man in motion, you're not helping yourself identify anything. And I think I think that was what Joel Klatt and a lot of people on these other podcasts have said, the scheming was bad because you didn't allow yourself to identify anything to try to attack. It was just, here's the play straight in front of you. If you think the linebacker is coming, you go ahead and hand it off. If you think he's not, go ahead and pull it, Jackson. And the thing is you have so many of these teams that like to faux blitz their linebackers and then drop them back in coverage. You have to be able to identify whether he's really coming or not. And the way to do that is with a hard count. If you hard count and you see that linebacker jump, oh, he's coming. Like, oh, he's coming. Now, if that happens, they look to the sideline, be ready for him to go ahead and drop back, because that's exactly what the DC is thinking. Oh, they made my linebacker, snitch on himself. Now I got to change it, and that's what you want, because that, as an OC, oh, now I know what we're running. Boom. The minute you see them look to the sideline, go ahead and audible, Jackson. Like, that's what practice is for. You tell them, because the mic turns off after 25 seconds on the play clock, so all you have is time to say the play and maybe the hot route. Those are the two things you have time to say. The rest of it has to be the quarterback being able to identify and adapt. And I think that if you don't give a player that freedom and you make the offense too complicated, you find yourself in terrible position.
Oh, Stoops, that was a lot.
It was long-winded, but it's the only way to describe the problems that were happening. And I think that really led to another problem Brent was having, which was he's not changing his philosophy and it's not working. And, it's just, I say he's looking out for number one. Brent's looking out for number one, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, anything else to say before we get into the weekend here?
No, I think I'm good. You covered it there.
Look,
3 minutes of OC talk.
They needed it. They needed it. I needed it. Buy my playbook. There
you go.
But no, it's right here. Playbook is right here, baby. It's right here. We're running chicken taquitos on 9, baby. Chicken taquitos on 9. Let's go. It's the Cheesecake Factory Skinnylicious menu, baby. It's never failed me before. It won't fail you. I promise. Look, win your bets. Watch some football. And we'll see you next time, man. For me and Zach here, St0ner Sports Radio Studio. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your NBA season as it is kicked off. And remember, horns down, or you're not.